Bursaries and Scholarships Fund to coordinate and administer scholarships and bursaries in public education.
Further, the CS vowed to solve part of the funding problem in institutions of higher learning. He says the Basic Education Bill on Scholarship and Bursaries 2024 and the Tertiary Education Placement and Funding Bill 2024 will be introduced that will grant loans and scholarships as well as placement of students.
One of the recommendations by the Working Party was to create a coordinated framework for scholarships and bursaries across all the levels of education. In this regard, we have developed 2 bills. We have also developed the Tertiary Education Placement and Funding Bill 2024, which creates the Tertiary Education Placement and Funding Authority. The authority will have the mandate of placing students in tertiary institutions and granting loans and scholarships. It will also maintain a database on tertiary education, placement and funding. The bills were subjected to stakeholder validation on the 1st of March 2024 and to public participation from 28th of February 2024 to 15th of March 2024. They are awaiting cabinet approval, after which we will submit them into this House for further processing.
At the same time, the CS has intimated of a committee that will look at cost of programs in various schools and rationalize to simmer down increase of fee appro.
If he's aware, if he's going.
Bentura Kwamboka, K24, Nairobi.
Transport Cabinet Secretary Davis Chirchir has defended the ministry's decision to increase the road maintenance levy by 7 shillings from 18 to 25 shillings despite a Mombasa High Court ruling halting the implementation in late August. Speaking when he appeared before the Senate to answer questions fielded by senators, Chirchir argued that the increase was enacted since the levy had stagnated at 18 shillings per litre for 8 years. The father said this was aimed at making up for the inflation and match the real-time value as well as due to the rise of cost of roadworks over time.
This massive investment, Chair, honourable members, in the road sector asset, which has been built up painstakingly over the years, has been diligently maintained, protected and preserved to ensure it preserves the citizens well, or it serves the citizens well while achieving maximum service life, return on investment and value for money. The Road Maintenance Levy Fund was established in 1993 to provide a sustainable resource for the required road maintenance and has since been adjusted from time to time in accordance with needs. The last adjustment was in 2016, the year 2016, 8 years ago, when the fuel levy was set at 18 shillings per litre. However, by 2024, an unsustainably large financing gap had emerged between the cost of essential road maintenance and the resource collected from the levy, from the 18 shillings levy. By way of example, Honourable Chair members, from the 2024-25 financial year, the cost of essential road maintenance activities for national roads is Kenya shillings 157 billion. That is what we need annually.
Adani Airport Holdings has fought back against the case filed against the Adani JK Deal, a case that led to the halting of the takeover. According to the replying affidavit, the firm says it paid 6.4 million shillings to the Kenyan government as facilitation fee for the takeover deal.
Just a week after High Court Judge John Chigiti issued temporary orders stopping the JKIA takeover negotiations, Adani Group, in a replying affidavit to the case, noted that the allegations made in the case are untrue and or unsubstantiated. Adani Airport Holdings Limited now says it paid $50,000 equivalent to 6.4 million Kenya shillings to the Kenyan government for its 238 billion proposal to take over operations and conduct a facelift of the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. In the affidavit, the company attached a letter sent to them by the Kenya Airports Authority Managing Director Henry Ogoye in regards to the payment of the facilitation fee, with the letter copied to the then CS for Transport Kipchumba Murkomen, his PS Mohamed Dogar, former Attorney General Justin Bere Muturi, Treasury PS Chris Kipto, and the Public-Private Partnership Directorate's Director General, Christopher Kirigwa. According to the court papers seen by K24 TV, the company says that both parties have not yet signed any agreement and that the project is still in its review stage as due diligence is being conducted. The firm says it decided to submit a proposal to the Kenyan government through the Kenya Airports Authority after consistent reports on local newspapers regarding the sorry and dilapidated infrastructure of the iconic facility between 2018 and 2023. The said proposal was received by the Kenya Airports Authority on the 1st of March 2024, and the company also provided the necessary pre-approval documents needed, including tax compliance documents and financial documents to aid the PPP Directorate. Adani now wants the case to be dismissed, saying the allegations made by the petitioners do not hold any water.
Elsewhere, Multimedia University students, led by their leaders, have demanded justice for Trevor Mathenge, a first-year student who was injured by the police during the Tuesday demonstrations at the university premises. Mathenge dislocated his leg and was taken to Rongai Orthopedic and Medical Services Hospital, where he is receiving treatment. This comes even as IPOA has since launched investigations into the incident where police were recorded clobbering the student.
Following a clip that went viral online of a student who was beaten and humiliated by the police during protests at the Multimedia University, fellow students have now come out to demand for justice against the men in uniform for using excessive force.
We want justice!
The students say they were protesting against poor management and lack of water in the university, among other issues, and did not deserve the use of excessive force from the police.
It is injustice. Yes. It is inhuman. Yes. It is a rumor. Yes. It is a innuendo. Yes. It is an hearsay. Yes. For a police officer, yes, who should be protecting us, yes, turn into animals, yes, and beat a comrade, yes, and leave them almost, yes, to a point, yes, that they cannot maintain themselves.
We want justice for those students whose hostel was fired with a canister. We want justice for Trevor, and we want it right now.
The students further demanded action from the government in confirming the acting VC Rosbella Maranga as their Vice Chancellor.
If you do not confirm one Professor Rosbella Maranga as the VC, yes, we will march from Magadi Road to Langata Road to the ministry. Yes. If it is not resolved, yes, we are ready to march even up to State House, comrades.
On her part, the acting VC acknowledged various challenges that have been facing the institution leading to the protests, but promised to settle the matters.
The water shortage was occasioned by an incident that we came to discover over the weekend, that our main pipe that brings water to the university tanks had been tampered with. We met the student leaders yesterday, and a discussion was made, and our students are very understanding. They came to understand what had happened, and now I think, or I know that everything is quiet in the university as far as the students are concerned.
The student leaders have given the government a 48-hour ultimatum to heed to their demands, failure to which will see them return to the streets. Anthony Kwemoi, K24 TV.
The National Assembly has approved the appointment of Douglas Kanja as the new Inspector General of Police. Parliament upheld his appointment after Gabriel Tongoyo, the Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security Chairperson, submitted to the House that his committee had approved the appointment. During the hearings, the lawmakers expressed their satisfaction with the IG's appointment, urging him to address the ills within the police and bring quick sanity to the service.
I was told of one Douglas Kanja, and when reaching his office, Mr. Speaker, I got a first-class treatment that I've never been given a treatment like that by police. The treatment was, this gentleman walked out to his office to come and meet me and took me inside. That is a very humble police person in the country, Mr. Speaker.
With no doubt, Mr. Douglas Kanja is a man that we can trust to bring the needed reform in the police service.
Taking into consideration the findings of the Joint Committee of the National Assembly Departmental Committee on Administration and Internal Affairs and the Senate Standing Committee on National Security, Defense and Foreign Relations, in its report on the vetting of Mr. Douglas Kanja Kirocho for approval as the Inspector General of the National Police Service, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, 17th September 2024, and pursuant to the provisions of Article 245(2)(a) of the Constitution and Section 12(1) of the National Police Service Act, Cap 84, and Section 8 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act, Cap 7F, this House approves the appointment of Mr. Douglas Kanja Kirocho as the Inspector General of the National Police Service. As members of that opinion say aye. Aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? No. The ayes have it.
Despite a court order barring industrial action, lecturers at public universities across Kenya danced defiantly in the streets yesterday as a strike led by the university's academic staff union UASU brought learning activities at more than 35 institutions to a complete standstill. Led by UASU Secretary General Constantine Wasonga, they are demanding for the implementation of the 2021-2025 CBA and improved working conditions. Lecturers across the country have also decried delayed pay, non-remittance of statutory deductions and failure by the government to implement a comprehensive medical cover. Meanwhile, the court order from Milimani Commercial Courts remains in place, temporarily restraining UASU from any further industrial action until the next hearing on the 2nd of October. Justice Gakeri has called for both parties to engage in negotiations.
10%. We are also government employees.
Our members gave us time to sit with the employers and negotiate on their behalf. That time has now lapsed. And the members today have taken back that particular mandate and the power that they gave us.
Strike with abandon. I want you to intensify this strike. And I want to say, we have no apologies for being on the streets.
Yes. We owe the government about 79 million. Therefore, we are saying until those balances are cleared, we are downing the tools as university workers.
President William Ruto has broken his silence over the tiff between the National Police Service and the judiciary, stating that it was hampering service delivery to Kenyans. As the squabble persists, the Court of Appeal, on the other hand, has knocked the acting inspector of police on the edge by pushing his hearing application in which he seeks to suspend the 6-month jail sentence to next week. The hearing will be had by a 3-judge bench appointed by the President of the Court of Appeal.
And therefore, I want to ask for more collaboration, more working together, that the independence that we respect and enjoy must also look at how together, interdependently, can work towards achieving the greater interest and the greater good of the people of Kenya.
Well, it's time for us to now have a look at what is making news in our dailies right here. And we begin with our very own newspaper right here. That is the People Daily. Remember, you can get a soft copy of the People Daily on our website, www.pd.co.ke. Looking at that newspaper right there, making news, Ogamba under fire of a funding model. Of course, the university funding model has actually created some noise, and this is part of what is forming the strike of the unions as we go on to the days leading to the end of this week. We also look at a situation where learning has been paralyzed as lecturers begin their strike. This is against the court order that persists that they shouldn't go on strike up until the hearing that is scheduled for the 2nd of October. Whether or not the lecturers are actually going to listen to that, we'll have a look at this as we monitor the situation on as from today. Also, The major headline right there is convict in power. This pertains to the acting Inspector General Gilbert Masengeli, who declined, and judges having declined to suspend his jail sentence, even as he continues to enjoy the company of top state officials and attending government functions. Remember, he was actually convicted of contempt of court and jailed for 6 months. This is something that also we'll be looking at as we progress on. Away from the People Daily, let's move to our next newspaper right there, the Daily Nation. How Raila Odinga used the cabinet to deal, or the cabinet deal rather, to settle ODM rows. There's an article right there speaking on how Raila used the cabinet deal, the broad-based government approach to settle ODM rows. Koki Muli's fourth bid for IBC job faces headwind. That is a story you'll be getting on the page 5 of the Daily Nation right there. Moving down, we look at playing with our children's future, and that highlighting some of the issues that we're dealing with as a nation right now. The junior secondary public school students in grades 7 and 8 are bearing the brunt of a chaotic transition into the new CBC system. We still have issues pertaining to that transition when it comes to grade 7 and 8 moving on to or transiting to the next level of education with regards to the CBC system. School fire tragedies is also an issue following the tragic event that happened at Endarasha Hillside School, where 21 lives were lost. Parents fear for the safety of the children in boarding schools amid failure to adhere to set guidelines. After that incident occurred, we saw the president pronouncing himself on the very same issue, and other governors as well taking steps to ensure that our schools are safe. We also saw an extent where some of the legislators are actually contemplating whether or not we should be having young school-going kids being or schooling in boarding schools. Varsity fees changes. This incorporates the issue pertaining to the new funding model, which has led to student protests over questionable banding, resulting in a second review. The head of state instituting the formation of a committee that will look into the same, something that university students too have taken an issue with, saying they do not need that committee. All they want is for those funding bans to be disbanded and them reverting back to the old system that has been in play for quite some time right now. We also have a way of pay strikes. Teachers in primary and secondary schools, as well as university dons and workers, have downed their tools. This comes in the wake of the just recently ended strike, where we saw there was a looming strike in our primary schools as well as our post-primary schools. Looking at another story right there, Kanja all said to be named police boss after MPs give that nod. And we have Adani fights off case in dispute over JKI list. Adani stating very carefully that they paid the Kenyan government 6.4 million for facilitation. Looking at that particular deal, those are some of the stories making headlines on the Daily Nation. Let's move to the Standard. As we move on with the Standard, we look at varsities in a fine mess. Basically, the main story right there across board on the Daily Nation as well as the Standard is that the varsities are in a fine mess. Varsities declaring right there that they're not going to go back to work unless they have discussions with the government, sit down and they agree on a return to work formula. There's also a fresh test for Ruto as IMF pushes for new tax policies. This will be forming a key part of our discussion this morning following the recession of the Finance Bill 2024. IMF team was in the country between the dates of give or take between the 11th to the 16th of this month, just looking at new targets and new policies that have been put in place to ensure that we look and we hit those targets coming from an institution that is heavily pegged on financial discipline and revenue generation by different governments. Also on the Standard is a story on Douglas Kanja Kirocho. The question they ask is, will this man end impunity? He's coming in the wake of reforms that are needed within the policing sector. Top of that list is to end enforced disappearance and police brutality that we've seen has been meted on protesters as well as university students, and this occurred just as recent as yesterday. We also look at an issue where he's charged with improving the welfare of police officers, especially those in law cadres, and to ensure there's transparent and fair promotions, issues that have bedeviled the policing sector for quite some time. Moving down there, in terms of politics, we look at Wetangula's party won't fold for UDA. Remember, leading up to today, we've had discussions of UDA having or forming this one big party and having those affiliate parties just fold and join. Ongoing talks already going on with Musalia Mudavadi's party to do the same, but as we're looking at that particular party shot down there, Moses Wetangula, the National Assembly Speaker, says his party is not going to fold to join UDA. We'll be following up on that to see how that unfolds. We also have juvenile gangs terrorizing Kwale and Mombasa, something that has been on the rise, even on social media platforms. Having a look at videos that have been doing rounds, we've seen gangs of young people terrorizing the residents right there. So basically, those are the top stories that we'll be looking at right here on the newspaper review. Already, my guests are seated with me right here in studio. So let's just take a quick break right here on The New Dawn. When we get back into the newspaper review. Do stay with us.